For the last several months at this point, I've been trying to write a script reviewing Konosuba, but lately I've hit a huge roadblock, mostly due to the fact that I was going way too in-depth and it was just not very coherent. So instead, I'm gonna be reviewing every manga I've read so far! I've tried to split my collection up into 4 distinct sections. Light novels, manga based on anime I've watched, manga whose anime I haven't watched or just don't have an anime, and JoJo's. There are a couple of outliers in Section 3, notably Death Note and the Persona 3 and 4 manga. All 3 of these have an anime tied to them, and I have watched all 3 of those anime. However, for space constraints and just because of their size, I put them down here so that the collection as a whole could be as uniform as possible. One last thing before I begin, I have a few rules that I've set for myself. 1. I obviously have to have read the manga. I can't fairly review something I know nothing about. This rules out Chronicles of the Cursed Sword, D. Gray Man, and Black Cat. 2. I have to have read at least 1 volume of the manga and or light novel. It doesn't count if I've only watched the anime. This rules out Death Note and the Persona manga. 3. I have to have read at least 1 volume of the physical manga. Manga I've read exclusively online don't count for the purposes of this video. This rules out Spy Family, One Punch Man, and Chainsaw Man. As a special exception, while it does technically fit this rule, I will not be excluding JoJo's. If I reviewed every individual part, this video would be thrice as long as it needs to be, so I'll just be reviewing the series as a whole instead. 4. I am not allowed to go back and reread any of the manga to refresh my memory. In other words, my opinions in this video may be anywhere between a week to several years old, depending on what I'm reviewing. 5. I have to review these in the order that I first read them to the best of my memory. It does not count if I watched the anime before I read the manga, as that order will differ quite a bit. With these rules set in mind, here are all the manga I will be reviewing today. If you'd like to skip to a specific one, go ahead, but I'd appreciate it if you watched the whole thing. I haven't read one of these since elementary school, so I really don't have anything to say about them. The novelty of owning some of the most popular games in history as their own manga is pretty cool, though. I remember my favorites growing up were the Four Swords ones. Something about Red Link just really struck a chord with 8-year-old me. I'm gonna try to be as brief as possible with this one, just considering everything I've already wanted to talk about with this series. Konosuba is probably my favorite anime manga just ever. I have watched and read some incredible stuff since I discovered Konosuba, but nothing has made me feel quite the same way that it did. With the final volume of the light novel being released in the West next month as of writing this, Season 3 of the anime presumably around the corner, and the manga catching up to some of the best stories in the series, I really think there could be no better time to get into it than now. The characters are perfect, the humor is perfect, the overarching story is perfect. Konosuba is perfect, in my opinion. When JoJo's is boring, it's unbearable, but when it's not, it's some of the greatest stuff I have ever read. If you want peak JoJo, I suggest you read parts 4 and 7. I think these are where it shines the brightest, and they just have the most interesting stories in the series, in my opinion. Between tracking down a small-town serial killer and a huge transcontinental horseback race, I just don't see how it could get any better than this. Granted, I've only just barely broken into Part 8, so this could change in the future, but as of writing this, 4 and 7 are easily the best parts in the series. Water time! Monogatari is really difficult to explain. The best way I've been able to do it is a vampire guy builds a harem by continually running into monsters by accident. Araragi's relationships and interactions with all the girls are so different from one another, and it leads to some incredibly entertaining moments. I've only read at Tatsuki, so I still have quite a bit of a way to go before I can give my full thoughts, but as far as I've gotten in the series, I think my favorite arcs would probably be Kizu Monogatari's Koyomi Vamp, Oni Monogatari's Shinobu Time, Koi Monogatari's Hitagi End, and Hana Monogatari's Suruga Devil. I've loved the whole series, but these are the parts that I enjoyed the most. Yotsugi Ononoki is best girl. I will not accept criticism. I would have done this along with the rest of Konosuba, but I started reading it way later, so it would have broken one of my own rules, and we can't have that. Explosion is a prequel to Konosuba, taking place about a year prior. It follows Megumin and Yunyun, as well as some other side characters that we didn't meet until pretty late into the original light novel series, as they pretend to try to get to Axel for 5 volumes. A great experience for Megumin fans. Unfortunately, I am not a very big Megumin fan, but it's still enjoyable as a fan of Konosuba. Bleach is just about as exciting as it gets when it comes to the manga that I've read. I'm only just at the beginning of the fake Karakura Town arc, but I don't need to read any further to know that I absolutely love Bleach. From its battles, to its villains, to its surprise reveals, nothing does it like Bleach does. Frankly, it's more deserving of my #1 spot than Konosuba is. But while I think it's infinitely more exciting than Konosuba, it just doesn't have the charm that Konosuba's world and characters give. But it's still an incredible manga. With 1,000-year Blood War anime right around the corner, I think I picked a very good time to become a Bleach fan, and you could do the same if you're a fast reader.
Or you could just watch the anime, but that's not what this video is about.
Oh! Ew! Dude! What the fuck? I would say that I think of Komi as a guilty pleasure manga, since not a lot of people think very highly of Slice of Life, but that would just be a blatant lie. I love this manga. It's more or less just your average high school rom-com, except every single character is either mentally insane or fits into the most niche group possible. They may as well be the only person that's the way they are. I've read well into the 2nd year arc, I guess you would call it, and there have been quite a few new characters introduced. Many of the main players throughout the 1st year, most notably Yamai, Nakanaka, Onemine, and Otori, show up less in these newer chapters, but they in no way are ignored. With such a wide and diverse cast of characters, Komi almost feels like a totally different manga every few chapters, and that's one of the things I like the most about it. A premise as basic as high school friends do things can get very stale very easily, but because of the way it's written, I haven't been even the slightest bit bored with any of this manga so far. I'd talk a bit about the relationship between Tadano and Komi, but anyone will probably be able to figure that out just from a glance. But it makes me very happy. This is the part of the video where I have less to say. I've only read 3 volumes of Blue Exorcist and frankly have no clue what happened where I left off, but I do know that I've thoroughly enjoyed what I've read so far. The dynamic between Rin and Yukio reminds me a bit of Naoto and Kanji from Persona 4 from what I can recall, and I just like the dude that looks like Leon from Danganronpa. That's really all I can say without rereading the manga, but I may make a follow-up at a later date. I feel like for how popular Fullmetal Alchemist is, I should probably have the most to say about it, but in actuality I probably have the least. I've only read a volume and some change of this manga, but I can definitely see why people like it so much. Edward and Alphonse are such a strange duo in concept, but the fact that they're brothers just makes it work. I think it's really funny how everyone so far hates the Fullmetal Alchemist even though he's just a guy. The only reason I knew about the girl getting turned into a dog beforehand is because Jay Schlatt dubbed over the clip from the anime in some video I watched a few years ago. That part's also funny. And that's it! Every manga I've read so far that meet my stupid criterion. I might make a separate video for all the manga that didn't if I feel like it, but for now, this'll be it. This was pretty different from anything else on my channel, but I want to start trying some different styles of videos just to freshen things up a bit. Let me know what you think, and anyway, thanks for watching if you did, and I'll see you next time.